Welcome back to Breaking Point on Real America's Voice News, Dish Network, Channel 219, Pluto.tv, Channel 240. And boy, is Real America's Voice News really expanding and growing. It's so exciting. John Solomon joined us with Just the News, and Raheem Kassam, the National Pulse. Frank Gaffney, former Assistant Secretary of Defense to Ronald Reagan, joined our network. We have so many great shows right now, so tune in. Check out Real America's Voice News. We just had Curtis Sliwa on, who's running for mayor in New York City and a founder of the Guardian Angels. And boy, is New York in tough shape. The governors have a tyrannical lockdown here. The governor, Andrew Cuomo, and the mayor, de Blasio. It's really bad. People are leaving in droves. But I want to get to our next guest. We have Larry Klayman on. He is the founder of Judicial Watch. And, we all love Judicial Watch. He's also the founder of Freedom Watch, and he wrote a book. But Larry's been around a really long time, and he's been fighting and fighting. Larry, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, David. My honor and pleasure.
Yeah, it's my honor to have you on the show here. You have an important message, and it's like when you read about you online, you're doing something right when the left makes you out to be like the devil. You've been in key roles in this country to expose the truth about the Clinton administration. Judicial Watch has done an incredible job over the years in exposing corruption. It's very important that we have people like you out there, and I just want to let you know that I appreciate it. So, Larry, can you tell us about your book? It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry. And what I'm taking away from this is that, the media always creates a scandal, the mainstream media. They create a crisis, and then they make it they're bringing you the crisis, and there's some magic potion that's going to cure our problems. And they keep doing it, and they keep revving up the problems. But how do we really fight what's going on and the slow erosion of our country?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. And, the thing about the scandal industry, and that goes with all the cable news networks, not America's Voice, telling the unvarnished truth without political correctness, the full truth, not the half-truth. And that's what I do in my radio show, Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman on Radio America. You can get it at freedomwatchusa.org, in the podcast. Put up there. I do this podcast every day in a weekly show. But getting back to the book, it's dedicated to Thomas Jefferson, who I thought and think was our greatest of founding fathers. And he predicted that someday we would enter into another revolutionary state, primarily because the three branches of government would not serve as a check to each other. You have right now a deep state, and I define it. I've lived in it for 40 years. I've been fighting it. A lot of people just use the word. They don't really know what it is. It's on both sides. And they're more powerful than the president of the United States. You can see that with the intelligence agencies, how they've tried to destroy President Trump and others, such as myself, who oppose them. You've got a bunch of court jesters, clowns, and criminals in Congress who are stuffing money into their pockets from special interests and labor unions and corporations and others that are buying their vote. But worst of all, and this was what Jefferson predicted, is that federal judges who he was opposed to Article 3 in the Constitution, because they're unelected, would become the most dangerous branch of government because they're not accountable to the people. And then over time, the false notion that they have life tenure, the Constitution does not give them life tenure. It says they serve for good behavior. So it could be limited. You could even have term limits renewable for good behavior. And I suggest that in the book as well. And then, of course, there's the judiciary. And I've been fighting this now for 40 some years. I've won some major victories, and you can read about it and you know about it. I'm not going to belabor it here, but I barely scratched the surface. This book is not pounding my chest saying, look how great I am. Look at what I have done. What it says is I haven't done enough. And I need the help of the American people to wage another revolution peacefully and legally. Now, Jefferson predicted that we would get to the point, primarily because of federal judges, that we would again have to shed the blood of patriots. And what he would say, every 20 years, we're going to have to refresh the patriots. I'm not in favor of that. I don't think he was either, but he was making a point. And my book gives concrete proposals on how we can wage a second American Revolution it's different than the other books that are out there right now. The other books are just saying, look at the terrible things that have happened in the last 4 years against Trump, witch hunts and impeachments, vote for Trump. That's what those other books are saying. My book is saying that although I support Trump, that is not the be all and end all. He's not a political messiah. He'll be there if he wins only for 4 years. And this decline in this country will continue on and on and on. The demographics are changing. And unless we put our foot down now and wage another American revolution to clean out the socialists and the communists and the radicals of all religions, colors, and stripes, then this country's on the verge of going down. And that's why I suggest, one of my suggestions is the citizens' grand jury. Look at Bill Barr, you mentioned it, the Attorney General. He's done virtually nothing. Comey's not indicted, Clapper's not indicted, not Brennan, not McCabe, not Orr, not the Lovebirds. He declares the Bidens and Clintons and Obama's off limits. These are his own words. Why is that? Because it's mutual assured destruction in Washington. They all have dirt on everybody else. They're worried about their own skin, and they want to continue to make the money hand over fist, which they make. Washington's never seen a recession. And I've also suggested that the American people should get to the point of thinking about forming their own government. Let's put it back in Philadelphia and drive the leftists out of Philadelphia. Let the criminals in Washington, D.C. commit crimes against themselves in all three branches of government, because it's become a disgrace. And this is what the president has opposed. You can see, he had limited success because of the strength of the corruption in the three branches. But now we, the people, must take it back. Citizens' grand juries, one way. We can, in panel grand juries, we can indict, we can try, we can convict, we can sentence, and we even have the right for citizens' arrests to do it peacefully and legally. That's in our system.
So it's really concerning. I remember when Greg Jarrett was warning us last year about Barr, and everyone is like, no, he's going to indict everybody and we're finally going to have justice. And it seems like Democrats never go to jail, It's upsetting, to say the least, that perhaps there won't be indictments before this election, because we know they're overdue. And I'm really concerned.
Either, David. There won't be after the election.
And even after this election, we have to worry about that slippery slope. I think people like us are going to be purged when the left gets in power again, of maybe all three branches of government. And we have to get ahead of that. And people feel helpless, especially with these lockdowns. We have 11.5% unemployment in the blue states under the lockdowns and 5.5% in the red states. And they've been open for months and have a third to a tenth of the death rate per capita than the blue states. So, we're locked down. There's a bigger thing at work here, against us. People feel hopeless.
You're right. And that's the theme of my book. It takes a revolution. Forget the scandal industry. Get Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, all the booksellers. What I'm saying is, when you turn on cable news, when you turn on Fox, they give you false hope. This is going to happen. People are going to be indicted. Major breaking story. This is Hannity. Major breaking story, major breaking news. It doesn't happen. We know it doesn't happen. So don't bother watching. Don't be entertained. Let's join a movement that will restore the country to the vision of our founding fathers, and put the popcorn and Coca-Cola down, take your feet off the coffee table and get to work. Join me at Freedom Watch or some other group and do something here. And back in 1992, let me say this, because it's not just something Larry Klayman pulled out of the hat. Justice Scalia said that grand jury belongs to the American people, not the three branches of government. We have the right, as we did in the Old West before the Justice Department was created in 1870, to have our own citizens' grand juries. I indicted Mueller last fall. We're going to try him after this COVID thing subsides and we can have a public trial. We have the right to try them, to convict them, and to hold them accountable. And our government's not going to do it because it's all one giant club in Washington. They protect each other in the end. It's all about getting on Fox News if you're conservative, or MSNBC and CNN if you're leftist, raising money for your next campaign, positioning your, and they all have lunch and they all love each other. When I was running Judicial Watch, I went to a White House Correspondents' Dinner. All the people I'd sued put their arm around me. Oh, Larry, they wanted me to be part of the club. I said, leave me alone. Get your hands off me. I'm not like you. And this is what it's about. Washington is totally corrupt to the core. And the only thing left and right can agree on is you can't believe a word the government says.
So Larry, in about 30 seconds, tell our viewers where they can follow your show and Freedom Watch.
Yes, you can go to freedomwatchusa.org. I also started a new group with Sheriff Joe Arpaio called America's Sheriff to support and protect and bring cases on behalf of the police and local law enforcement. And the book, please get it and read it. It's very important. It has a shelf life long before this election, and it gives a proposal on how we can wage a second American revolution. We can get the discussion going, because if not, the left is taking this country over. Thank you, David.
Right. Well, thank you, Larry Klayman, very, very much. Listen, these issues take more time to hash out, but there is a groundswell nationwide. They're coming out for Trump in the streets, and it's kind of like a grassroots movement, even though if the campaign isn't doing it, the people are rising up. You know, these Trump car parades, 30,000 cars, and these people coming out. It's truly a phenomenon. Larry Klayman, thank you for joining us today.
Okay, God bless.
This is David Zier. You're watching Breaking Point on America's Voice News, Real America's Voice News.